Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on all types of topics related to narcissism. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. It's a free way you can help me out. And definitely don't forget to leave a comment because I like to read what you have to say. Last weekend, Joe and I watched The Exorcist. I'd never seen it, and Joe insisted that I had to watch it. He's huge on horror movies. Now, years ago, I would have thought that the movie was absolutely ridiculous, that would never happen. Come on. But today, I not only believe it could be real, I know things like that are real. There's something in our world that most people don't see, don't experience. But just because most people don't believe it doesn't make it untrue. In 1 Peter 5-8, it states, "The devil roams around like a roaring lion seeking to devour." My ex was devoured by that adversary. It's real. If I had to pick one thing, the thing my ex's narcissism taught me, it's this. Real evil, Satan, if you will, exists. I've experienced it. My children have experienced it. Many of you have too. If you are in a relationship with someone you think may be a narcissist, be aware that this person could put you in real danger. I don't want to freak anybody out, and I don't believe that everybody who says that they're with a narcissist really is, but if you know they are, if you are sure of it, if you heavily think it, you have to be on your guard, because the person that you're with, if they're really a narcissist, they're capable of things that sound crazy. I know this, but I also know what I've witnessed. My daughter calls the body of a narcissist a husk. It's kind of this funny thing that she says, but there's a reality to it. That their shell, something not human is in there. One of the worst things to happen during this whole nightmare is that I lost my house. It was impossible to keep it. It was my worst fear though in all of this. I was desperate to keep that house for whatever reason. I often comforted myself by saying, well, I can't lose my house. I won't. Because God won't give you more than you can bear. So I was safe because losing my house was too much to bear. I lost it anyways, and I'm still alive. We can bear much more than we think. All of us can. My new comfort in losing my house is this. Evil exists in it. It existed. It is in there. I don't know. But in today's video, I'm going to tell you about that evil. The house has been infiltrated. My kids and I ended up needing to be rescued from that house. I was clinging onto that house. We had to leave though. There was a tipping point with my ex. He was captured by something, taken over. I don't know. I don't know what happened. And I know it sounds crazy, but I personally witnessed it. My kids saw it. One of the most popular videos I've done is one on the Jezebel spirit. I'll link it below if you haven't seen it. The reason I'm mentioning this is because many of you have commented and emailed me that these types of things have happened to you too. They're real. 1 Peter states, right, to be alert and sober-minded. Your enemy roams around like a roaring lion. Many of us have lived with that enemy. Now, we bought our house in New Hampshire in 2014. A year and a half later, my eyes were opened and spiritual warfare began. And I say this every time. It sounds so nuts, I know. But what I'm telling you, what I tell you in my videos really happened. And if you're with a narcissist, you need to be aware that these things are real. The issue in my house didn't end until I kicked my ex out of the house. So I don't know if my ex or narcissists in general are born bad, if they're overtaken, but I do know that lion I've mentioned, he's real. It does devour. Something happened to my ex and it affected the very house that we lived in. In today's video, I'm going to tell you a few of the things that I wouldn't have believed if I didn't personally witness this. This whole thing began with me in the basement of the house. God came into this house. Now, I'm religious now, and it's because of the things that have happened, but it's important to understand when this whole thing began, I believed in God. Yes, I would have told you I believed in God. I didn't read my Bible. I didn't go to church. It was just God to me was some type of Santa Claus figure in the sky. He wasn't real in my life. My ex lost his job. Shortly after he moved into the house, my ex lost his job. and he could not get another job. He could not get another job, and that was really stressing me out. At the time, I was a stay-at-home mom, so that was our income. Now, he had a large severance pay. The way that his job worked was that it was something like for every 2 weeks that you worked there, you got, oh gosh, I can't remember what it was. For every 2 weeks you worked there, every month you worked there, you got a certain amount of severance. My ex had worked there for a long time, so he had over 6 months of severance pay. So regardless of what the exact amount was, he had several months, like 6-7 months worth of severance pay. It was running out, and I was starting to panic. So one day I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go in my basement and clean. Sometimes if I just clean or iron or chop vegetables, stuff like that, it helps to relieve the stress. So I was down in my basement and I was cleaning. And suddenly, now this wasn't audible. It wasn't like I was hearing voices, but in my head, suddenly it came, be still and know that I am God. Now, if you know your Bible, if you're not even if you go shopping at Hobby Lobby, you'll see this quote. I know this. I never remember seeing it. I don't remember. I didn't know it. I was searching to find what it was, and then I Googled it and found out that it was in the Bible. I believe that God said that to me. Be still and know that I am God. And it all began with that. In fact, at that moment, I was so overtaken by it. It literally drove me to my knees. Something profound had happened to me. I went upstairs. Now, remember, I didn't know who my ex was at the time. I went upstairs to tell him, oh my gosh, this amazing thing happened. Before I could say a word to him, he came and found me and he said, guess what? I got a job. At that exact time that I heard in my head, be still and know that I am God, he had gotten a job offer. So we were safe financially. I had no idea what was about to begin in my life. A week or so later, I was delivered from codependence. Now, I'll just tell you this story briefly because I know it sounds weird, but just for the sake of time on the video, this is really what happened. I was in my bathroom. This was April 16th, 2016. April 21st, 2016. I was in my bathroom. I was getting ready. All of a sudden, I was listening to the radio, and the person on the radio, well, he announced that Prince died. All right, this makes no sense, I know, but this is what happened. It was significant to me. Prince died, and that put me on a path of absolute, I don't want to say hell, but it kind of was. It was pain. I dated somebody a long time ago, and he loved Prince. As soon as I heard that radio announcer say that, I started thinking about this person, and I realized, like, as time went on, this took 3 or 4 months for me to realize this. I guess 4 months. I went through this whole cycle where I had to go back in time, and I was thinking about things that had happened. I would have told you at that day, April 21st, that this person, my ex, he was the cause of everything. 4 months later, I realized I was the cause. I went through real agony, feeling real pain. I had never gone through the pain of that breakup. This was a significant relationship, just to put that into perspective. I never got over it. I had kind of just moved on. I believe that I had to go through that. I needed to be right with God. At the end of that 4 months, I ended up praying for this person, asking God's forgiveness, and then I moved on to the next stage. I really believe if I had not gone through this with my ex, not this ex, but the past ex, I don't know that I would have moved on and been where I am right now. I think that had to happen. I think God saved me. He delivered me from codependence that day. I had heard his voice the week before. God was putting me on a different path. As I started rising up, my ex crashed down spectacularly. You know, it is absolutely shocking to me and my kids to think about how he went so far down. And that's why I say something, I don't know, something in him. Paris, calls it the husk. I don't know, but I know that there's something evil there. Things started to change with the house. Now I'm going to tell you some of the things that happened. These aren't in any particular order. I'm actually not sure of the order of these, but these are some things that happened to my family in the last few years. I'm going to begin with one of the things I find the creepiest, and this happened to my son. Many of you know I have a 16-year-old son. He knows I have the channel. He's fine that I have the channel, but he doesn't like me to talk about him too much on the channel. So I don't, but you know I have a son, and I do have his permission to tell you the story. Several years ago. So in the way that the house was, we had like a bonus room. And in that bonus room, my ex had like a little office, and I'm a homeschool mom, so I taught my kids school in that room. So my son was in there by himself, and he must have been, oh, you guys, a 13, he was probably around 13 and that, maybe 12. He was around that age. He was in the schoolroom / office watching TV, and he was sitting at my ex's desk. He noticed, now he told me the story again recently. When he told me the first time, he was so freaked out that I never really had a full grasp on this. I think I mentioned this on the channel before, but I actually just recently spoke to him about it the other day, and I asked him to tell me more about the story. So he was in the schoolroom / office at my ex's desk, and he noticed a pencil cup, like a little Bichon Frise pencil cup, incredibly lightweight, and it was on the desk, and it was kind of near the edge. So my son was watching TV at the time. He pushed it back. So he wasn't fully concentrating on this pencil holder, but he pushed the pencil holder back. Then he said it moved back, like it moved back to where it was. So at that point, he was like confused. Did I not see this? What happened? He didn't know. So he's like, I decided to move it again. He said when he went to push the pencil holder, it wouldn't move. There was like a force on it, like something else was preventing it from moving. This was like a plastic cup with a couple of pencils in it. He couldn't move it. There was a force. He said it freaked him out so much he ran from the room. And I remember this. I remember when he ran from the room, he was freaked out. He was incoherent. He was really afraid. He didn't go back into that room for a while. But I didn't want to freak him out more, so I didn't ask him too much about it. It wasn't until, gosh, I must have asked him about this a year or so ago. And then he told me again a couple weeks ago. That happened to him in that room. Now, in that room, the area that my ex's desk was at, we started getting water all over the floor. So there would be big puddles of it, always around his desk, and it smelled terrible. Then it started dripping down the walls, all by his desk. I had so many people over trying to figure out what this water was coming from. Could it be the roof? Could it be the bathroom? Because the bathroom wasn't near it, but we're thinking of all sources of water. It was ruled out. No one knew what it was. I think the people I had over, because finally I called a general contractor, but the insurance person over, we had plumber over, we had a roofer over, nobody could figure it out. So then I thought, all right, maybe a general contractor could help us out. There's nothing here, man. And we started getting water down walls and other areas of the house. It was like a teardrop. So there was this teardrop. It just literally a teardrop. It would form in the middle of the wall. So there was this one time after I spoke to the general contractor, he told me that when water comes, when I see it dripping down the walls, to call him. And if he's in the area, he'll come over right then so he can see it. I had pictures of it, but he hadn't actually seen it. So at one point, this happened, and I called the general contractor, and I'm like, it's happening right now. He was over at the house in like 10 minutes. He could see the water dripping down the center of the wall. It was in a hallway, just down the center of the wall. There was a kitchen behind that wall. So he assumed it had something to do with the kitchen. So he said to me, can I cut a hole in the wall? I want to cut a hole in the wall and see what's behind it. We fully expected there to be a pipe behind that wall. There was nothing. There was literally nothing there. He cut this big hole in the wall. There's nothing there, no pipe. After he saw that, he left the house and he wouldn't return my calls. He thought I was crazy, that I was messing around with him, or that my kids were doing something. It was real. The floor of the house is still stained from all the water. It was in the closet. There were puddles in the closet, up on my ex's desk, on the walls, coming down, going up the stairs. It was like a wall on one of the sides. It would drip down from there, this water. It was driving us insane. When I kicked my ex out of the house, it stopped. Now, what I ended up doing, because I began to start thinking that something was weird going on in the house. There was some supernatural, something was happening. When my ex left that house, I actually considered bringing my pastor over to the house to pray over the house. I did it myself first. I got on my knees in every single room in that house and asked for my house to be protected, to have anything evil leave. When he left, after I said that prayer, those prayers, there was not one more water drop. My kids and I lived in that house for 2 full years after I kicked my ex out. We never had another problem. Nothing was fixed in the house. Nothing was changed. He was not there. And I prayed over every room in that house. It stopped with that. Now, I'm also going to tell you another issue that happened in that house. I saw a figure in my garage. So there was this figure in the garage. I was outside. The way that the house is, we would go in and out of the garage. So there is a front door, but we kept that locked. It was one of those houses where, because you walk into the garage, you go into the kitchen. That's the layout of the house. It worked out that way. I was in my backyard, and there's windows in the garage. So I was walking around the house, and through the window, I could see what I thought was my ex in the garage. So I'm thinking it's him in the garage. I go around the corner. Now, the way the house was positioned, if somebody had left, I would have seen, because it went straight into the driveway and I was walking right to the driveway. I would have seen that. I went in that garage and I'm talking. I'm like, so-and-so, I'm calling his name. I'm trying to get his attention. I was like, where the heck did he go? There was a car in the garage, nothing else, just, some tools and stuff. He wouldn't answer. I was so surprised because I saw him. I saw this figure in my garage. I was so surprised. I was like, what the hell? So I actually thought maybe he was going to jump out and not hurt me, but scare me. That all of a sudden, he was going to be there. He was trying to freak me out. I ended up walking all around the garage. Now, this isn't a huge garage, right? I can see everything when I walk in, but I still ended up walking all around to make sure. My ex was upstairs, like 2 flights up in the office. That's where he was. He wasn't in the garage. I saw something. There was something there. I'm positive. I can picture, sometimes people call them like shadow figures. There was something in that garage. I believed it was my ex. I was shocked when it wasn't. Now, the last thing I'm going to tell you, because a lot of mean things happened in that house, but the last thing I'm going to tell you is my daughter and I witnessed this 2 times. My daughter was with me one of the times. We literally witnessed my ex speaking in a different voice. Now, after he had been kicked out, so this was during the 2-year span when he was kicked out, and that was between 2019 and 2021, when we weren't having the water on the house anymore. We weren't experiencing any other, supernatural symptoms. He breaks into the house. My daughter, the bedroom was on the first floor. I was coming out of the bedroom. My daughter was coming downstairs. We're about to watch Gone with the Wind. My son wasn't home. We're going to have a movie night. We both we coming to intersect with each other, and there's my ex. He broke into the house. I said to him, you have to leave. You need to leave. Please leave right now, because I'm going to have to call the police if you don't leave. And he started speaking to my daughter. And his voice, it wasn't his voice. He starts speaking to her, and he's like, Paris, I'm not intimidating you, am I? That he was talking like that. He said that. Paris got so freaked out. She ran upstairs. She waited in her room with mace. She thought he was going to come after her. And she said to me, who was that? That wasn't my father. Who was that? Who was that? We talked about this later. I heard it too. Now, that's actually the second time I had heard it. There was one time I was talking on the phone to my ex, and he suddenly said to me, we were like in an argument, and I can't remember exactly what I said, but he responded to me, no, it's not true. And it wasn't his voice. It was like this short little statement he said, but I could feel it in my body. There was something not right. My ex changed in that house. I think God knew this. That's why he woke me up, because I didn't even know I had been having a spiritual awakening. Everything changed in that house. When I first heard from God, my ex went downhill so fast. He literally collapsed. Like, my daughter talks about this sometimes, and she's like, I think he's still having this narcissistic collapse. He just was one way, then he was another way. When he wasn't there, the house was normal. Now, I want to say something else too that freaked me out a little bit. The people that lived in the house before us had only lived there for about 6 months, and they put the house in the market. They ended up getting divorced. So they moved into this house. So here are these people. Now, I don't know them very well, but you obviously, I would assume, I wouldn't do this, buy a house with somebody that I was imminently going to divorce. They moved into this house. 6 months later, they sold the house. They got divorced. Max and I are in this house. Not too long after we moved in there, these things started happening. And we ended up, well, we just sold the house. We ended up getting divorced. So these people that are moving into the house, I don't know if there's something in the house or something with my ex, but I do know when my ex wasn't there, those 2 years, we weren't experiencing these things. But these are things that really happened in my house. And I'm telling you some of the scarier things. There was also a lot of crazy that my ex was acting. He was just a different person. The way he acted, the things he did, the things he didn't do. My kids and I were full out abused horrifically in that house. And I am convinced, I know that there is something evil in this world. When you are with a narcissist, you just know. We can't watch a movie like The Exorcist. We can't think about supernatural events without knowing. I mean, and this is knowing, not thinking, not believing, not probably. It's real. So if you are with somebody and you think they're a narcissist, keep your guard up. I don't know if any of you, I'm sure you do, of the Watts situation, Chris Watts and Shanann Watts. There were some people there, some of her friends, that said that Chris Watts changed, that there was something in that house. When they moved into that house, his entire being changed. He wasn't the same person, that there was something evil in him. I don't know if it's, and there's some spooky things if you watch, I don't know if these are real or not, but if you watch YouTube on this, there's some police officers and people that had gone into the house and witnessed some unusual things. So I don't know if it's like a bad house for them or for me or for you, or if it's just whatever it is in the narcissist, because I do know it stopped when my ex left, but the way that my kids and I feel, the things that we know, and similar things happened to Joe too. So maybe we can talk about that in another video. And I know you guys have experienced this as well. Tell me what you think. Am I crazy? Is evil in the house? Is it in the person and it manifests into what's around them? Or what do you think? Because I'd really, really love to know. This changed me. It changed me. It changed my kids. We know that life is different than other people. There's this invisible world that when you see it, you don't unsee it. You can't ever go back to living the way that you were. But it doesn't mean that you can't move on and have a wonderful life. Because when you've been saved from a narcissist, you are blessed. If you're still with a narcissist, God exists. He exists. It takes time. When you're with a narcissist, you can't usually just leave. Hold on. Keep your relationship with God and don't fall into the narcissist trap. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I really hope this helped. I hope it helps people understand that it's okay to know that bad things exist. I used to be afraid. To mention it because it sounded crazy, but I have this channel specifically to help people who have a narcissist in their life, to help people understand what is really going on. Thank you so much. I will see you on Friday. God bless.